We see this as an excellent opportunity to inspire others to take climate action, and also take the opportunity to help people who are lacking safe drinking water and sanitation, and have proceeds go to Water for People. So joining us today from Water for People is the Chief Development Officer, Chad. He'll open up with a few words, and then we'll jump right into our panel.
Great. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, all right. Well, thanks again for inviting us to come and share a little bit. I'll do a quick, for those of you that aren't familiar with Water for People, I'll just share a little bit about who we are, and I'll share just real briefly on how we're navigating COVID, and then also our engagement with the climate crisis. For those of you that aren't too familiar with Water for People, we were born out of the North American water and wastewater industry back in the 80s. Three engineers, after traveling sort of around the world and visiting projects and working on infrastructure, felt like things needed to be different. Saw a lot of incomplete, broken down infrastructure. So they went back, started to ask themselves, how do we do this better? How do we make more lasting change? And we thought we were going at it the right way. So we began to build better systems, right? Better infrastructure. And what we quickly realized was that infrastructure was just the tip of the iceberg, and that we needed to do much more in terms of system strengthening. So we actually divested. We were in 40 countries. We grew very quickly. And then we divested and went down to 9 countries. And what we realized was, unless there's ownership and a real sense of identity associated with the water systems themselves, and the people that are benefiting from the water systems or owning, operating, and maintaining those systems, they really do fail in the long term. So we set out to create a system with very robust, monitoring and evaluation systems to ensure that those systems were sustainable and that they would last well into the future. So we went down to 9 countries, got it right. That model is now known as the Everyone Forever model, which is sort of our trademark, and feel like we've gotten things figured out. So now we're actually on a very ambitious initiative towards Destination 2030 is what we're calling it, towards SDG 6, and enlisting other partners to help us achieve and have the greatest impact. And we're hoping to impact to the tune of maybe 800 million people, either directly or indirectly through our work. So that's a little bit about who we are. I know that's a very high level, but that's, for the most part, that's what you need to know for today. In terms of COVID, first, I just want to say thank you to this group and for including us in sort of the beneficiary of all your work of today. And to let you know a little bit about how we were impacted by COVID. As everyone else, we were, we had some hiccups along the way. And one of those took the form of our largest donor partner cutting their funding to us by a third, which, as you all know, has a pretty devastating impact. So serendipitously, we were recognized in the New York Times this year by Nicholas Kristof as one of the 5 organizations who were really handling and addressing the issues of the pandemic and COVID. So that did help offset some of the some of the loss of revenue that we had. And I would say that the reason that we were recognized in the New York Times was because of our Everyone Forever model and the system strengthening approach that we take. And we really focus on 2 areas. So we focus on, one would be our, I guess you would say, our response. So, and the sustainability with how we build our model, how we work with the communities where we're at. The systems that we embrace and help support both at a local and a national level really helps those systems those communities that are actually faced with COVID actually respond much better than those that don't have a sustainable water source. So we immediately identified almost 300 clinics and schools and some public institutions that needed to be expedited to ensure that those systems would be sustainable through the crisis. Also ensuring that hygiene practices were being followed correctly. I think the other piece that is a little bit unique to us is that we really wanted to focus on resiliency, because we know that how quickly a government or community responds to the pandemic costs lives if they're not as quick, right? Every minute lost is another life. So we've really tried to be a supporter in local governments to help their response time in addressing information, the best hygiene practices, because we all know that misinformation leads to loss of life. And so we take that at a very high priority. And so we've leaned into that in a lot of ways in the countries where we work. So one of the very interesting things that we're embarking on for Destination 2030 is the development of what we're calling an epidemic preparedness sort of model, where we are going to be partnering with other organizations and working diligently to utilize and leverage the water taps and the services that we provide, those points, as information centers, so that we can be more responsive and have that resiliency for communities to be able to respond quickly and to recover quickly. So that's, in a nutshell, at a very high level, what we're doing with COVID. And I wanted to just share specifically what we're doing with regard to climate change and the climate crisis, because that's really the crux of today's theme. And I would say that it again stems back to our system strengthening approach to all that we do. And in the middle of all that, the communities where we work, the staff that we have and the partners that we have, they've all been impacted in many ways by the climate crisis, both through natural disasters, which obviously means infrastructures are broken down and need to be rebuilt. Sanitation services are destroyed through those natural disasters. And then obviously there's this increased scarcity of water. And if you have, scarcity of water, then you have less drinking water. So we are really working with water boards at the local, community and government level to mitigate the impacts of climate change. And so we work through measures like, watershed protection, such as reforestation of recharge zones. We also ensure that there's effective water conservation measures taking place. And there's a myriad of other things we're doing. But I think most importantly, I wanted to make sure if you heard anything from me today, it was just to thank you for being creative, moving to sort of this digital online approach. We've had to do the same thing. And so I love your dance event that you have coming up. I think that's great. And I'm sad that I can't be there to see the whole thing, but I'm going to try to stay on as long as I can and maybe catch a little bit of the dance. So just want to thank you for having us, Jose, and appreciate you guys.